Great. Thank you, Allison. Thank you all for being here. I think most would know I'm Dakota Staggs. We're all with Beyond School Bells here on the team hosting this call. We just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce the Catalyst 2026-2027 funding opportunity. We'll kind of talk through, there's a lot that's the same, there's a lot that's new, and so we'll take the opportunity to introduce it all to you. I just like feel good when I see this picture about these kids leading us somewhere. So this is our agenda for the presentation. Alice is going to give us some vision for the framework this year. We'll talk through the goals. Those have been largely consistent with the last year. There's some new elements, but consistent to Beyond School Bell's work. We'll talk through what's new about the opportunity. Then we'll talk through the requirements and expectations. Most of that is, again, consistent with BSB work. And then we will take questions. If we don't have, I'm just going to voice it here. If we don't have room for questions at the end, I've got a QR code. We've got a survey. So if we don't get to anything live, we will have an opportunity to collect it and respond directly.
Well, as Dakota said, I can say good afternoon now as of 4 minutes ago. So, good afternoon. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. We're excited to share the 26-27 Catalyst funding opportunity because, in a lot of ways, it represents both a continuation and an evolution of our statewide work together. For many years, Beyond School Bells core grants have helped communities across Nebraska build and sustain high quality after school and summer programs, as you all know. Through the investments, we've seen programs create safe spaces for youth. We've seen strengthened academic and well-being outcomes, strong community partnership building, and doors opening to opportunities that might otherwise not exist. That commitment remains unchanged. So, what is changing is our level of intentionality around the outcomes that we're working toward together. Over the past several years, Nebraska has increasingly focused on two challenges that have really strong implications for the future of communities and our state. The first is literacy. State leaders have established ambitious goals around improving reading outcomes, recognizing that literacy is foundational to success across all topics in school, work, and also long term life outcomes. And the second is workforce development across Nebraska. Employers, educators, state leaders are asking how we can better prepare young people for future careers and help them see pathways to success within their own communities. So, as we as a team, we're looking at these priorities and public comments from policy and education leaders from across the state. We too often noticed a glaring gap in Nebraska Examiner articles and interviews and other sources in strategies that were being talked about to address these goals. Can you guess what the crucial overlooked solution often was? After school or out of school time programs. So, everyone on this call knows that after school and summer programs are uniquely and strongly positioned to create reading rich environments, to connect youth with books and caring adults, to engage families, to introduce young people to careers, build workplace skills, and help youth imagine futures they may never have previously considered. The after school space is more than an optional opportunity to address these issues. It's an essential tool being left in the toolbox. In other words, after school is not separate from these statewide goals. It's a crucial component of social infrastructure to help communities reach these goals. And that thinking is what has shaped this year's Catalyst opportunity. So rather than only funding single grants to programs, we're inviting communities to join a statewide effort that's focused on one of two pathways: literacy or workforce exploration. That does not mean every program will look the same. In fact, local flexibility remains one of the most important aspects of this opportunity. A literacy program in Scottsbluff may look really different from one in Columbus. A workforce exploration program in Crete might look really different from one in Norfolk. We expect and we celebrate those differences. What unites these efforts is a shared commitment to helping Nebraska youth thrive and to creating stronger, sustainable funding streams for after school in Nebraska. For literacy focused programs, that means intentionally creating cultures of reading through engaging literacy experiences, family engagement, access to books, and opportunities for youth to see themselves as readers. For workforce exploration focused programs, that means helping young people discover careers, connect with local employers, build workplace skills, and better understand the opportunities available to them in Nebraska and beyond. For both strands, it means ensuring key community and state leaders understand the value of your programs in reaching the goals to which they're committed to over the long term. Equally important is a deeper and more connected learning community that we're going to create. Programs selected for funding will become part of a statewide network of practitioners who are learning together, sharing ideas, solving challenges, and helping all of us understand what works. Through coaching, technical assistance, professional learning, and peer networking, we will support programs not only in implementing strong activities, but also in continuously improving and building long-term sustainability. You'll also see that we've introduced a research and innovation cohort for a small number of programs. These sites are going to help all of us. They're going to make a deeper commitment to implementation in exchange for increased funding and multi-year support. Our hope is that these demonstration sites help generate knowledge that can strengthen programming for all of us for years to come. At its core, as our announcement suggested, this opportunity is about something bigger than grants. It's about building a statewide movement that recognizes after school and summer learning as essential community infrastructure, a movement that positions expanded learning opportunities as contributors to literacy success, workforce readiness, and long-term youth outcomes, and a movement that allows communities to maintain their unique strengths while contributing to a shared vision for Nebraska's future. So we know many of you are already doing pieces of this work. Our goal is not to ask you to start over or to overburden yourselves. Instead, it's to help recognize, focus, strengthen, and connect those efforts in ways that create greater impact for youth, families, and communities that we serve. So we're excited to walk through the details with you today and answer questions that you might have. And just thank you for being a part of this work and for everything that you do for Nebraska's young people. And with that, I'll hand it back over to you, Dakota.
Thank you, Allison. Um, these are those core kind of funding goals that Allison talked about that you all would be familiar with. They have some of those elements of what Allison talked about in the focus support and the focus goals that we're aiming to kind of use to bring together a statewide field to really coalesce around the value and the strengths that we all know within after school. So quality, strengthening the practice. So this is nothing new. This is something that we have been working with you all on and will continue to work with you all on, really using data to inform our practice to make sure that we support staff, we support programs to improve upon what they have strengths in and to address opportunities, right? Sustainability. So really building the system. We want to make sure after school is recognized, bringing the value that we know it brings. How can we ensure that we have sustainability going into the future for each of our own individual programs as well as for the field as a whole? Integration alignment with local and state priorities. So Allison talked about the individualization, the unique approach of programs. That is key to sustainability. We want to do that for each individual program as well as to, again, contribute to kind of the system as a whole to the state. Advocacy, so telling the story. This is something I think most folks maybe are familiar with the Catalyst Summit from this past spring. We're going to continue that work. We're going to continue to talk to policymakers, to legislators, to local stakeholders. Really, we want to tell the story of after school, especially in those local strengths and especially in the ways that we connect to a statewide system. When we are addressing statewide challenges, addressing truthfully national challenges in things like literacy, we need to tell those stories. We know that after school programs bring that success. And so we're going to do the work to communicate together and to form stories individually so that people who make decisions can respond to data and can respond to what we know works. Innovation, things that are local, things that make sense for youth, student-centered programming. We want to make sure kids have fun in after school. Like that's the point. That's how we get kids to be there to continue to learn, to make improvements. Really, we want to engage students to create engaging experiences, connect learning to those academic outcomes, to those needs like literacy, but also to those real world things like what does it mean to have a job shadow? What does it mean to, from my perspective, learn to garden? What are those real world skills that we can engage students in after school to do? That's where we have opportunity to innovate, to reimagine the experience.
Mhm. And you'll notice on the application there, if you applied last year, kind of the difference is you were applying kind of for projects under each of these, whereas this year you're choosing literacy or that workforce exploration and then answering questions about how these goals connect back to that project. So that's kind of where the shift happens.
And I think just a couple other things to point out that are new is we will continue supporting older youth staff. That is really a core strategy that we use for sustainability and engaging older youth. And this year, we want to make sure that all of the high school staff that we support are, we want to provide additional wraparound supports for them, but we've really tried to be thoughtful about doing that without putting any more burden on program staff. And so what we are looking at doing is having just a staff coordinator at the site. And really that would just be kind of like opening the space and helping to kind of coordinate a couple sessions where we will fund somebody to come in. It will likely be an extension educator or an extension assistant or perhaps a connected youth initiative coach that will come in and kind of just lead some career interest assessment and post-secondary planning activities with the older youth that you have working in your program. We'll provide an additional stipend for the staff coordinator, and we are committed to making the workload as light and simple as possible for program staff, while we're also ensuring that all of the youth that are engaged in after school are really getting kind of a full package that begins with the after school platform and helps them make connections into their future. And then the other piece is the research and innovation cohort, which keeps coming up. And you will all have the opportunity to mark that on your application if you're interested in being considered for that. And we have a slide toward the end that provides a little bit more details on that, so I won't go into it here.
All right. So if you are interested in the literacy pathway, um, I would love that because you all know that's something I get really excited about. Um, when we talk about connecting, like you see that research case on the bottom, connecting to those school day outcomes of reading proficiency, really there's a strong research link between if kids are having fun while they're reading and they identify as a reader, they say, I'm a reader, I like to read, and then they read voluntarily. That builds their vocabulary, that builds their, lots of those other pieces that build proficiency. So it may seem like it's fluffy to say, like, we just want kids to have fun reading, but it's really not. It's really important. So this pathway will really focus on helping you build a reading culture in your after school setting. Um, so we learned from our pilots. I know Bellevue's here. They did a pilot for us that those book stands and creating cozy reading environments it can be really impactful in a program. So that's something, if you choose this, that we're going to ask you to do. What that looks like, up to you. Um, Also, we're going to ask you to learn about what your district's literacy goals are and find ways to align your enrichment programming. So that doesn't mean duplicate what the school day is doing, but finding ways to, tie these things together so that it makes sense what you're doing and kids are continuing to learn, but in an after school way. Um, We'll also, Anne can talk a little bit once I'm done talking about take-home backpacks. Very excited about that. You'll have the opportunity to set up a checkout system And then we will have some a learning community and professional development around all of the resources that we have. Beyond School Bells has been working hard with some partners to develop some really high quality curriculum that you can use to do individual activities, clubs. We'll also have coaching. We'll have connection to partners who can get books at cost. So you'll be able to fill those book stands with lots and lots of books for not all that much money. And then we'll provide the content of that PD and learning community. So, Anne, if you want to mention anything about take-home backpacks.
Sure. And I'll just introduce myself because I haven't met everybody on the call yet. My name is Ann O'Connor, and I joined Beyond School Bells in March. And my background is science education and STEM development. And I also really enjoy literacy as well. And so one of the things that I worked on before I came here for my previous position and now is literacy backpacks. And so we have three currently, really hoping to have five by August. And those will be, they have 6 books in them, and then you can purchase as many as you think you want to have with three different themes that are based on art. So one is the language of color, one is the language of lines, and one is the language of shapes. And you can use those backpacks as family engagement or family enrichment activities that you can send home with them. But you could also do an art activity, for example, in your after school program, get them excited about it, and then take the backpacks. And they are about $100 a piece, so you can plan that in for your budgeting purposes. So a set of three, if you wanted one of each, would be about $300. And then the next slide is me as well, which is the workforce exploration. So you have the opportunity to focus on literacy if you want to. The other pathway that you could focus on is workforce exploration. You do not need to do both of them. So you can pick whichever one interests you more or you want to do with your program. And so this is about building career awareness and future readiness for the students or the kids in your program. And so I'll start with the research case just like Stephanie did. So there is research that shows if you can provide fun and engaging activities, which a lot of the things that were most interesting when I taught middle school science were labs. That's what the students loved. And a lot of those have gone out of the classroom now. And so they have been able to be put into after school programming that helps build identity the same way that reading does. So if they can say, I can be a scientist, I can do STEM, that helps them build identity. It also helps them with their career awareness. If you're using a curriculum that shows them that's what they're actually doing, which then builds career identity. And then it helps them with their post-secondary planning. If they want to go be a doctor, for example, they have certain classes that they should take in high school, and they can start thinking about those things and making sure that they're doing the kinds of things that they need to do to be ready for that. And so what you can do is up at the top of the slide. And so this is wide open. There's a lot of opportunities for you, and it kind of is going to depend upon what your community available resources are, what your program wants to do. But one of the things is that you can connect youth to careers through hands-on exploration and real-world experiences. That could be things like a STEM club. That could be things like a career exploration club. So you could do a lot of different things. And one of the things that we'll help you with is we do have career exploration resources, so we can give you ideas on that if you're have never done a club like that before. And then also building relationships with local employers. So who might come in and be willing to talk to your students in the local community about the job opportunities that they have or the careers that they have. If you're working at elementary level, it's really about an awareness. So you want them to be aware of all of the careers in your community so that if they want to stay there, they know what opportunities they have. And then also helping youth develop their future ready skills. So that's things like communication, collaboration, problem solving, critical thinking. So focusing on those areas and deciding what do you really want to build on with intentionality. And then finally, engaging in the learning community and professional development opportunities, because we will have some. And a little bit later, I'll talk about the high school post-secondary opportunities as well. But there are also opportunities for professional development within this impact or this impact pathway as well.
Okay, I just wanted to provide this visual based on what Stephanie and Anne have kind of described in those pathways. Hopefully, this will give you a little bit of clarity, some kind of way to visualize how you might construct an application. So you've seen on the website, I'm going to assume because that's where we put the link to the webinar itself. So I think you've all been there. Eligibility, Greater Nebraska, K-12, out of school time programs. That is you all. When you think about how you want to construct an application, would you rather kind of focus on literacy or workforce development? That can be alignment with work that you are already doing, or it can be alignment to a new aspiration. It's really up to you. Once you make those decisions, kind of use what Stephanie and Ann just talked through and the details, the research, the approaches within those pathways, align those things to the goals of Catalyst, the goals really of after school high quality programming. How do we make sure programs are high quality? How do we make sure they're sustainable? How do we make sure that we advocate for the value that is brought and create and be innovative in all those things relating to the focus of literacy or the focus of workforce development? From there, we'll talk about, I think, the high school staffing later, but there's an element there. As you construct your application, if you would like to support high school student staff as part of a Catalyst project, that element will be there. If you apply, then you're applying at a minimum to be a Catalyst partner. From there, we'll talk in a little bit as well about the potential to opt in to be considered for a research and innovation cohort. There's a few programs Allison mentioned, and I think we'll talk about in just a little bit.
And that little bottom rectangle, AI as a tool, I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of guidance as you're completing applications. If you decide to complete an application, the RFP is longer than our traditional RFPs have been. We knew that. And it's not because we want to torture applicants. It's because we wanted to be as kind as possible with clarity. I think I might have frozen. Did I freeze? Did I unfreeze yet?
Well, now your video is gone, but we can still hear you.
Okay. Well, I might.
Now you're back.
Okay, I think we're good. Okay. I'm not sure what I heard or what you all heard, but we're not trying to torture you with longer grant materials. Really, we're trying to be kind through clarity. And so I would encourage you to take the time to read through the pathway framework carefully. And the hope is that it doesn't feel like a burden, that as you're reading, you're thinking, oh, we do this already. This could give us funds to build that out this way. Or, oh, I never thought about that before. That's an easy way that we could connect, students to X partner in the community. We're hoping that it's inspirational, will help you kind of think about being intentional about where you want to grow, what you're already doing, or maybe new things that you want to build into your program. And I will just say that when we're doing application processing, we use ourselves, we use kind of context and background about what we know about our partners. We process applications with our own minds, but we also use AI as a tool. So I just wanted to let you all know that as part of the application processing, your applications will be run through either ChatGPT or Claude. And Chat and Claude are really good at pointing out where there are gaps in like a framework versus an application. And so I just wanted to share that if you do use AI, I would encourage you to run it through yourself, drop in the framework, the application, and then drop in your application and ask it to show you where gaps are or what's missing. We don't expect you to do everything on the application, but it would be a stronger application if you know and you're intentional about what's missing instead of just not noticing that it's missing. And we do not only rely on AI. It is a machine, it is a tool. We rely on ourselves, but I just wanted to let you all know that we do use it as a tool, and it will help us see kind of like, oh, we might want to have a conversation about this with, X or Y applicant. And so in sharing that, I just want you all to have the strongest applications as possible. And if you're someone who doesn't use AI, I don't want you to be at a disadvantage. So feel free to reach out to one of us and we can help you with that too, as part of the application process. So just let us know if you want any guidance on that. And I just wanted to be transparent about how we process applications.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is the fun part. No, okay, no, maybe not. For me, it is. It's the fun part for me. Okay. Funding logistics. I see several familiar faces and names. So this may be kind of a repeat for many of you. I will call out what's new this year. I will call out what's similar from last year. And as always, if you have questions, please let me know. I have my email at the bottom. And also, our full BSB team is aware of all of these things. So if you have questions and you want to go to them, they are also very well versed. But just to give you guys kind of an overview, the reporting or the funding will be from September to May. So that's kind of that was put on the website and a couple other places. So it's 9 month funding. It's for the school year specifically. And our kind of hope and goal is to support in spending those funds down throughout the contract. So for that reason, we've decided to do three-month expenditure reports. So those will be throughout that 9 months. The first 3 months will be due in December. The next will be due in March, and then the last three will be due in June. We're hoping that we can also kind of, I know sometimes when you have to report on 6 months all at once, it gets to be a lot. So hopefully doing 3 months is a little bit less of a lift while it might be more frequent. That is our kind of hope and plan for this one. The other piece that is new that I want to flag because I know that this is important to know upfront for everybody is that we will ask for supporting documentation upfront. So if many of you are familiar with our usual school year grants, typically we have general ledger and expenditure reporter due, and then you all keep your supporting documentation in whatever systems you have. For this, it'll be similar to summer for those who have received summer funding in the past, so this won't look new to you, but we will ask that all of that supporting documentation is submitted up front with the expenditure report and general ledger. So what that looks like for my visual people, because that's me. Expenditure report is this form. Many of you have probably seen it. Maybe everybody has seen it. This is a form that we send you, and you basically tell us, here's how much we've spent, here's what category, and you sign it and do that on both tabs. The next piece is that general ledger. So that's something that would be generated by your accountant or your business office or whoever does your finances for you. It should be itemized. So make sure that you have dates, amounts, what the charge is, and make sure that those expenses are within the range of the report as well. That's always important. So like if you're spending dollars, make sure that it starts not before the contract actually starts, if that makes sense. And then the last piece, which is the new piece, is just that supporting documentation. You guys already collect this, I'm positive. So you'll send us, let's say that you're asking for wages, you'd send us a timesheet and a payroll summary along with the other pieces. If it's, supplies, it's receipts, mileage, hotel, all that kind of stuff. We do have a document that kind of goes through each of those categories and what we look for supporting documentation. So you'll have that. You don't have to memorize all this, but I just wanted to call that out. Okay, and then payment structure. I have this slide for those who prefer reading, but I have a visual that I much prefer. So I'm going to let you guys have this slide in the recording, and I'm going to skip to the actual visual piece of it so that you guys can see this visually. So typically we do upfront payments with Catalyst funding in the past for BSB partners and other contracts. We will continue to do those upfront payments. We're just adjusting it since we'll have 3 reports instead of 2 reports. So I just wanted you guys to have an idea of what that looks like. So if you sign your contract in September, say you receive funding, we sign a contract, we're all ready to go, you will receive a third of that contract amount upfront. And hopefully that will give you the opportunity to spend those dollars, not have to upfront pay anything on your own side of things. You'll have that money from us immediately. And then at the first report due date, so in December, we will look at your expenditure report and say, if you spent 75% of that first payment, basically just saying you're doing great job spending, awesome. We're going to continue through that contract with upfront payments all the way through. If the first 3 months were a little bit lighter than expected, less than 75% of that first payment was spent, then we'll move over just to reimbursement. So it's not a penalty. It's not something that you would lose out on money potentially. If you do spend all of that contracted amount, you will receive all of that contracted amount. It will just come after instead of upfront. And then the last piece I want to highlight here is that by the end of the contract, if you have stayed on that upfront payment track, just make sure that every dollar is spent by May 31st. I know some of you guys have experienced the funness of we have $4 left, And I don't want to be that person, but I have to be that person to say, hey, we need those $4 spent. So just making sure that all of that spending is done by May 31st if you do get those upfront payment each time. Okay. There will be time at the end for questions. Again, my email is here, so if you need anything, please let me know.
All right. And then the next thing that we want to talk about is post-secondary development. I was actually surprised. I don't know if anybody else on the team was surprised, but I got to see this past year for Catalyst funding how many high school students programs were employing, and it was over 150. And so we really wanted to be intentional about supporting those high school students. For those of you who either have high school students that you are already employing, or you are interested in adding that in, this is something that hopefully will interest you. And so we're calling it the Statewide High School Staff Development Initiative. And I've been involved with helping high school students do after school programming for about 8 years now in a variety of different grants and formats. And we've tried to pull what has been the best and has had really good results together. And so as part of this opportunity, if you're requesting high school staff wages, we would really like those high school students to facilitate a career-connected STEM activity. It could be one lesson, it could be a curriculum. It's up to you. I can give you all kinds of ideas on what has worked for other programs. And one of the reasons behind that is 8 out of the 10 highest demand jobs in Nebraska are STEM right now. And also, it's the seven of the fastest growing jobs in Nebraska are also all STEM. And so trying to give your kids some exposure to STEM is really important for career readiness if they are interested in going into a STEM field. And so that was one of the reasons why we really wanted to do some STEM activities. But you can also have your high school staff, if you are doing literacy, do literacy or do literacy with STEAM or STEM. And so there's lots of different options on this, but we do want to have something that's focused on at least a STEM activity or lesson that they teach. And then we also wanted to obviously support staff wages. And we want to be more intentional about creating some training and some PD opportunities with Beyond School Bells and network partners. And so we will provide some coaching that is tailored to high school staff, specifically STEM related in some areas, but also career development. And so doing career assessments, just helping them think about what do they want to do after they've graduated from high school. It doesn't have to be college. It could be technical school. It could be a CNA certification, but we want to help them explore those options. And then we also want to provide a stipend for somebody at your site to do what we are going to call a student staff coordinator. So they would be helping with this portion of the programming. And that stipend will be dependent on how much work you want them to put in addition to what they already do. And so that's why I'm not giving you a specific amount because it'll depend on what you put in your application because we want you to be flexible on that. And then we will require that the high school students complete one survey to tell us about their experiences because we've had some really good surveys filled out in the past with some great opportunities and stories that the high school students have given us. And one of the things that's really important about this that I've seen in several of the sites that I've worked with is the relationship building opportunity that this gives for the site directors and the students that work with the staff that work with these high school staff, because they really feel like somebody cares about them. You create a sense of belonging for them because somebody is actually asking them about what do they do. And just this past year, I asked the high school students in a program, what did they want from us to help them out? And it was filling out FAFSAs. It was developing, having a mock interview. It was sitting down with them and talking about what were their opportunities and just meeting with them personally. And so we wanted to provide that at your sites to help support your high school students, give you that opportunity to build those relationships and hopefully have this be even more meaningful than it already is and what you currently have existing. If you do not have high school staff and you don't want to put them in your program, that's perfectly fine. So this isn't a requirement. It is an opportunity for those of you who have staff, high school staff, or want to put them in.
Okay, so we've already said a little bit about the research and innovation cohort. And we're actually in the process of developing the studies. There will be a literacy study and a workforce exploration study. We've partnered with MMI. Many of you are lovingly familiar with the Monroe Meyer Institute. We'll be working with Jolene and some of her team members who love after school. But they're going to kind of design a couple studies that fit the after school space for us. We will have the parameters for those at the end of August. And the plan is that if you're interested in being part of the research and innovation cohort, we will commit to funding 3 years as long as we have funds available, so that, you know, in the nonprofit space, I don't want to overpromise, but as long as we have funds available, the idea is that this will be at least a 3-year commitment, and it will also be up to $20,000 more. What we're going to have people do is just complete a regular Catalyst application and then indicate whether you're interested in being considered for the research and innovation cohort. We're going to take the fall semester, you'll implement your Catalyst grant as normal. And what we're going to do with that R&I cohort is use the fall semester as planning and onboarding. We'll get all of the pieces in place. And then we'll also work on that additional budget during the fall semester as you're implementing the rest of your grant like you normally would. And then we plan to start the studies in January. And so that's kind of what that's going to look like. And then we want to build those studies out over time. There's going to be some really cool opportunities. I don't know if many of you have heard of NSERS. It's like answers without the A. That is a really neat data and evaluation organization that's really unique to Nebraska, that will allow us to use student IDs to connect longitudinally to what youth are doing 5 years from now. And so this will kind of be a base where we can start really looking at Nebraska specific after school impact data. So it's an exciting opportunity. There will be chances for you to be kind of highlighted on the national stage and to share, you know, kind of findings as we move along together across the state. So it's a really hopefully exciting opportunity. If you're not excited by it, you don't have to you don't have to participate, but we hope that there will be some communities who are as excited about it as we are, and details will come along. We will grow and form it along with you. So we don't have it all completely planned out yet, but very excited to kind of flexibly build it with some partners.
Thank you, Allison. So we want to spend a few minutes talking about what your commitment or participation will look like as our Catalyst partner. Keeping in mind that some of these opportunities are designed for you to help you with connecting with others and hopefully achieving your goals and impact. So the first one is implementing high quality programming. So we'd like to see some intentional efforts of implementing those high quality activities aligned with the overall Catalyst funding goals and your selected pathway. Again, focusing on quality, sustainability, local advocacy, and innovation. The next one is participate in Catalyst funding meetings. So we will be hosting periodic virtual Catalyst meetings where you can receive updates, hear from others, and learn from each other as you work towards these goals. The next one is participating in professional development opportunities. We're going to provide you a list of those offerings at a later date, but we would like you to take advantage of those learning opportunities that will strengthen your work and that is aligned with your pathway and goals. Also mentioned earlier several times is participate in monthly community of practice learning communities. So each of you will come together to discuss a topic, share ideas, maybe discuss some of the challenges you're facing, and of course, learn from each other. And this community of practice will be specific to your chosen pathway. Also, we want you to engage in reflection, coaching, and continuous improvement activities. So we want to stress the importance of learning and improving. We would like you to be open to the opportunities of coaching and reflection and overall continuous improvement and planning. Also, we would like you to share your impact and help elevate the value of expanded learning opportunities. So we want to, we'll encourage you to share those successes and stories that demonstrates the value of the work that you're doing that's helping strengthening the literacy and the workforce exploration And we will also be helping you with those stories as well. Then we will also be asking you to join us in Lincoln, as we did this past winter. It'll be again either late winter or early spring for our annual summit and advocacy day. And like Lauren mentioned earlier, we'll be requiring you to provide expenditure reports, progress reports, and any specific data or story that helps us understand what's working and the difference that's being made. And as far as communication, you all know that with any partnership, timely communication helps us support you when you need it, answer questions quickly. So for most of you on this call, you will be just doing what you naturally do best, and that strong communication. Okay, next slide. Um, depending on your goals and proposed activities, you may be receiving some support or additional support that includes individualized coaching, assistance with developing some quality improvement plan. Again, like I mentioned earlier, some advocacy guidance or some data collection. Some of you might participate in the youth voice activities, such as the youth brainstorming sessions or youth advisory groups. Additional commitments and support might be provided for those programs that are requesting the high school staff wage support or participate in this high school staff development initiative. We just hope that you fully engage in these opportunities during this funding cycle. Bottom line is that we, Beyond School Bells, is committing supporting you, your program, your needs, and success at every step of the way. Okay, next slide. So now we're going to provide you the opportunity to ask our team any questions that you may have over today's materials, goals, focus areas, or the application itself. So feel free to unmute yourself or ask in the chat.
This also, I just want to say that QR code, if you have questions that we don't get to today, please do put them there. Based on that QR code, we'll respond individually, and we will also, I think, probably make a frequently asked questions portion on the website so that we can document answers to frequently asked questions.
I have a clarification question on the take-home backpacks. Are the resources also in Spanish?
That is a good question. We do not have those currently in Spanish, but I can certainly take that into consideration because we did translate them all for STEM backpacks. And so I was hoping to pilot them this fall, see what changes we need to make, and then have them translated after that. But if you really feel like that's important to do at the beginning, I can talk to Allison about that and we can see about translating them now, and then we'll just make the updates in the fall.
But just to be clear, the STEM backpacks are translated into Spanish,
Yes.
and then many of them also have pictorial instructions. We were having a hard time figuring out what other languages to translate to because it differs so much across the state. So Anne had the brilliant idea to do pictorial instructions so that lots of different base language families could participate.
Yeah, and we will eventually want to do that with literacy backpacks as well. But since this is our first round with them, I want to make sure that we get changes made and we get them as clear as possible before we do the investment for that.
Thanks.
Hi, I had a question about our high school students as our staff. So you had mentioned one site director kind of overseeing their staff or whatever high school staff that they had. But let's say we have multiple high school staff, at different sites. Would they be able to participate in that as well?
Yeah, the idea is that any high school staff that we're providing wage support for would be participating. So if you've got multiple locations, ideally we'd find the most efficient way to engage all of them. And whether that's everyone coming together at one site or depending on how many youth, might be a couple different sessions. But definitely we can work with you on that, Danielle.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So I just want to clarify, just for my own mind, the Catalyst funding, there are two separate things. There's the literacy and the I'm sorry,
Workforce. Yep, you got it.
Workforce, that's it.
You're
I
all
couldn't
good.
get it. Thank you. Workforce, but then there's also this initiative which is separate from the Catalyst. Is that correct? Or is the workforce part of the Catalyst grant and the initiative?
So the high school wraparound supports that we were just talking about are a part of the both grants. So if you choose the literacy pathway and you have high school staff, it will apply. If you choose the workforce exploration pathway and you have high school staff, it will apply. If you don't have high school staff and aren't able to start high school staff in your program, it doesn't apply to you at all.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Mhm.
As far as the high school staff, for the training that you guys are going to do, is that like a one-time training? Is that a something that they're going to continue to work through the school year type training? Like, do you have an idea of what that will look like as far as training? I know, like, okay, so all of my high school staff are highly involved in a lot of stuff. And so, like, we have a lot of times that they're just out because they're involved in so many different things. And so, adding more, I'm sorry, my phone is going crazy. Adding more stuff into that, I think might be a lot for my high school students, but I think that they would really appreciate extra training in that area. So I just didn't know what I could talk to them about with that idea.
Yeah, that's a great question, Michelle. And I'll let Anne speak to this a little bit too. But Anne has, let's see, years of experience working with high school schedules, and it is challenging. I think the idea here is that we want to be a little flexible. It will depend on a few different things. Number one, like what you're already doing with high school staffers in your project. And number two, who is available in your locality? So is it an extension educator that we can facilitate coming in? Is it a connected youth initiative coach? What kind of things can they offer? And then we're thinking like 1 to 2 sessions per semester, like maybe one 90-minute meeting at the start of the year, maybe another one before the holidays, or, we want it to be flexible, but also enough to add something that's meaningful. And Anne, I don't know if you want to say anything more to that.
Yeah, so I've been giving this a lot of thought, and I know we need to have some flexibility. So, Michelle, one thing that we have come up with is I'm working on a finalizing series of Better Kid Care modules and other online resources that are completely asynchronous. So you could have your staff take one of those maybe in an entire semester and have them do that maybe at the end of programming when your ratios have dropped a little bit. So that's one option. And then the other option is to do some in-person training with somebody that comes in, or that could do a career assessment with them. I had one group that did a 2-hour training with a person from a local community college that just came in and shared apprenticeships with them. What opportunities were available? What could they do with that? I've had other people that they did implemented a slime curriculum, but they were able to do that with the site director, just giving some coaching. I've had somebody else that actually hired a teacher in to come in and mentor their students, and they did it that way. So there's a lot of different variations and ways that you can do this. It's just what do you have as resources in your local community that you want to tap into? But I do know that high school students are extremely busy, and so sometimes those asynchronous options are really the only way that you can do it because of that. But hopefully we can get at least one in person a semester to have them, at least half of them come. Does it
I
help?
know a lot of our kiddos are already a part of the Ed Rising program that's here at our high school. And that's where it's like teachers in training, kind of. And they go through how to run a lesson, how to run a program. They have to come up with a lesson plan and they work on building that. And then they have to present it. And they have competitions about that and stuff. And so they already do a lot of that stuff, which is really great. So maybe that's something where we can partner a little bit more with that and see how maybe that teacher would be willing to come and talk with our kiddos more. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I think that's a great idea. And if you can partner with them and give them the opportunity to test run their activities and the lessons that they're coming up with
Yeah.
in school, that would be the professional development. And then having a mentor reflection piece. would be a really good idea because that's going to build their teaching skills.
Okay. Yeah, we were talking about that last year, possibly working out a way of them test running their lesson programs in our after school program. But yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
It may be also be good to mention that if you'll notice, there's not a lights on after school line item in the budgets that are provided on the application. We're going to do something different this year where we're going to layer on different communities of practice opportunities and possibly set up some sort of invoicing. So we definitely want to support Lights On After School again this year. We're going to do it separately. And our wonderful colleague Patricia is probably going to lead a community of practice building on her Power On After School community of practice. You won't have to have participated in that to join this, but there also might be some STEM family engagement opportunities and some other sort of learning community with some funding to go do something cool based on what you're learning throughout the year. So if some of that is missing, feel free. And you're like, oh, I wonder if they're gonna let us know, reach out, and we can kind of let you know what our plans are, and also just continue watching our newsletter and looking at our news blasts because we plan to release different opportunities as we move forward through the year.
Is there going to be another opportunity for that Lights On grant again? Because we found out like the day we went to conference, and we're like, there's no way we're going to write a grant in a day and get it turned in. And so we chose not to go for that grant at the time, but I didn't know if there's another opportunity before October for that grant to happen again, or if it's just going to be a once a year thing that's always in the spring, or how that goes.
Was this a past grant from us? Or
It was I think,
Are you, Michelle, you talking about the Power On After School?
yes, that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She found out about it at the Catalyst Summit.
Oh, okay. We try to give you more than a day on almost all of our grant opportunities. Sorry if that one didn't align very well with your schedule, but we do always give more than a day. So there will be an on-ramp. We will get stuff out in news blasts. So I would say just try to look at the newsletters and the news blasts. A lot of stuff comes out in that. We'll try to also coordinate social media posts. And Patricia she's planning on, I think we're going to do a learning community around Lights On After School. And so that would entail some things leading up to October. Sorry, Patricia, I didn't want to speak for you there.
No, that's correct. Yep, you'll get more information on that, and then we will let you know as far as hopefully we will the funding opportunity for Lights On After School well in advance.
So yes, there will be a fall opportunity, not just a spring opportunity. We don't know the dates exactly, but that's
And
Lights
that
On.
wasn't on you guys not getting the information out. That was on me missing it. So it was totally my bad. So I was just wondering if there was going to be another opportunity for that grant again, or if it was just a once a year. So that was all my question was.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle, for bringing that up. I think we definitely want to be able to fund your fall events and hoping again for spring. So we will send that out in multiple ways.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I think we're good to wrap here, but please, please, please do reach out to a BHP Point person. Any one of us are happy to communicate, answer questions, provide clarification. Personally, I love the brainstorming process too, so we want to be part of that with you. I put that link in the chat, the Catalyst 2026 27 questions fill out form. I would encourage you honestly, like send either use that form or reach out to one of us. But as questions come up, as need for clarification comes up, please just communicate. Let us know. We want to make sure we're all on the same page and we can support applications. Thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate you. We're excited for this process and we will look forward to collaborating with you all.
Thanks, everybody.